Have you ever noticed that the pain you fear most could actually be the safest path to your freedom? It sounds contradictory, doesn't it? Life makes us believe that avoiding suffering is a sign of intelligence, but Carl Jung reminds us that true awakening begins exactly where our wounds run deepest. Every breakup, every crisis that seemed to break you apart is actually a secret door connecting you to your truest self. Imagine realizing that everything you went through wasn't punishment, but an invitation to see beyond the illusions your ego built. Most people chase answers outside themselves, trying to control situations, avoiding inner confrontations, and still feeling empty. But here's the curious part. Those who allow themselves to face pain discover an awakening they never imagined. People who have gone through deep losses, traumas, or profound disappointments report that it was in these moments that they truly saw life in its fullness. And the most striking thing, this perception doesn't require power, money, or status. It only asks for the courage to look inward. What if I told you that the suffering you've tried to ignore contains the key to unlocking your deepest potential? That your most intimate pain, the one that makes you flinch, is exactly what will ignite a light inside you. It's a paradox that's unsettling but real. The deeper you feel, the more awake you become. Jung reminds us that ignoring or suppressing our wounds only delays the growth that's already waiting to happen. Now, imagine taking the first step and looking at your wounds with a new perspective. Not as enemies, but as silent guides, disguised teachers, tools for transformation. Understanding this principle allows you to see that every emotional challenge, every painful moment, isn't an obstacle, but a springboard. And it's this insight that opens the door to the journey we're about to explore. Pain has this mysterious power to break down what we thought was solid, the ego. Imagine a seemingly perfect, smooth, closed vase that lets nothing in. It looks whole, but inside it's empty. Only when the first crack appears does the light find a way through. Just like in existential crises, when life shatters plans and certainties, that's exactly when the ego starts to give way. No one enjoys the moment of rupture because it hurts, confuses, and often makes everything feel meaningless. A person might feel this at the end of a relationship, when suddenly the ground disappears and the image of themselves as part of a couple falls apart. At this point, the inevitable question arises, who am I if I am no longer what I thought I was? That crack, which seems like destruction, actually creates space for something greater. This process is like clay being shaped into a vase under pressure over time. On the outside, the vase still holds its form, but inside it's ready to open. Pain is that snap, the moment when what was just an image or facade can no longer hold up. That's why after a crisis, people often discover themselves more authentic, less concerned with appearances, and more focused on truly being. And when someone goes through that crack, something curious happens. Life no longer fits in the old molds. The ego tries to glue the pieces back together, but the light has already entered, and it insists on expanding. It's as if that pain didn't destroy after all, but started an inevitable process that will continue to deepen. Pain often acts like an alarm clock that won't let you hit snooze. It comes when the illusion of control collapses, and we realize nothing is truly guaranteed. That's the moment a person sees that trying to control every detail only leads to frustration. Those who face deep losses or unexpected crises often turn to spirituality only after everything seems lost. Pain, heavy as it is, becomes the most direct teacher there is. Imagine someone who's been living on autopilot, seeking comfort and predictability, until a major loss bursts their bubble. Suddenly, with a heavy heart, they realize nothing they relied on before really holds. And that's when the first signs of awakening appear. Inner questions arise, curiosity about life, existence, and what truly matters. Pain opens the eyes, even when the heart feels heavy and resistant. It's fascinating to notice that for people who approach spirituality after deep suffering, even the smallest insight feels like a revelation. That sense that life is out of control, that stability is an illusion, becomes something to honor. Pain creates humility, teaching that we are not the masters of fate. And paradoxically, it's that recognition that allows a clearer view of one's own essence. In this way, pain works like an invisible bridge, connecting the world of illusion to real awareness. Even with a tight chest, a person realizes something bigger is at play, something you don't learn in books or theories, but in the raw experience of feeling life collapse and still moving forward. This opening, begun by pain, sets the stage for the next lesson: how pain deeply connects us to others. When someone goes through deep pain, they discover that their own suffering isn't just a burden, but a key to truly seeing others. People who have suffered, often without realizing it, stop judging quickly, listen without interruption, and feel what isn't theirs. Each inner scar becomes a sensitive antenna for the pain of others. It's in this silent learning that real compassion is born, not just in words, but through daily gestures and actions. A practical example of this appears in people who, after losing someone close, dedicate their time to helping others. Pain shows them clearly that life is fragile and that shared suffering transforms. Empathy doesn't arise from comfort, but from confronting one's own emptiness and vulnerability. And interestingly, at this point, they realize that by helping others, they also heal themselves, because every act of compassion restores meaning to their own pain. Pain connects us to the collective in a way fleeting happiness rarely does. It shows that we are not isolated, that suffering is a universal language, and that each tear carries an echo that can reach other hearts. Someone who has gone through deep loss learns to recognize the signs of anguish in those around them. This understanding emerges almost instinctively, born from experience and reflection on what has inevitably been felt. And at this point, compassion becomes a lifestyle, not just a reaction. Those who understand pain see it as an invisible link between humans, where each wound can be a bridge for connection. And when they grasp this truth, they open the door to expand their consciousness beyond their own inner world, preparing the ground for the next step, turning this pain into purpose and the alchemy of the soul. When understood, pain is not just suffering, it's raw material for inner transformation. It's as if the lead of our suffering, heavy and rough, can be refined into the gold of consciousness. Those who face their shadows and acknowledge their wounds discover a hidden power within, the ability to turn raw experience into wisdom and pain into direction. The alchemical metaphor isn't an exaggeration. It's reality for anyone willing to confront their own darkness with courage. From a Jungian perspective, this is explained through shadow integration. Everything we reject or deny within ourselves seeks expression, and pain acts as the catalyst for this encounter. Someone who allows themselves to deeply feel losses and internal conflicts begins to notice hidden patterns, old wounds that shaped decisions, and learns to turn these scars into guidance for more conscious choices. Pain stops being just a burden and becomes a guiding force. Imagine a person who, after an emotional breakdown, chooses to dedicate their life to teaching others how to handle suffering. What was once a heavy load becomes purpose, and every painful story transforms into a bridge to illuminate someone else's path. Pain functions as a silent teacher. It forces introspection, challenges the ego, and invites the creation of meaning. The gold that emerges is not just a metaphor, it's the tangible result of deep learning and emotional transformation. And like all good alchemy, this process is gradual and ongoing. Pain doesn't disappear overnight, but when confronted and transmuted, it reveals layers of consciousness previously inaccessible. Those who learn to work with this inner force realize that every emotional challenge is not merely an obstacle, but a tool for expansion. And when this understanding arises, it opens the possibility to take the next step, crossing pain as the threshold to full awakening. There comes a point when pain stops being the enemy and shows up as a gateway. Each wound, every tear shed, is actually a silent invitation to step into an unknown threshold. Those who face their pain realize that behind discomfort and confusion lies a space for expansion, a place where consciousness can open in unexpected ways. It's at this point that we understand suffering isn't punishment, but preparation. Interestingly, the threshold of awakening isn't always a dramatic event, but rather a collection of small cracks connecting over time. Each crisis, each intense emotional challenge acts as a step. The person who crosses this threshold understands that suffering has a hidden purpose, to reveal the fragility of human control and to show the depth of the self beyond the ego. At this stage, perception shifts. The world is no longer seen only through the filter of immediate pleasure and pain, but as a stage for learning. The awakening that begins in wounds allows us to see life with greater clarity, recognize patterns, understand limits, and above all, find meaning in experiences that once seemed random. It's the maturity of consciousness emerging from pain itself, and so those who pass through this threshold realize that every hardship endured was not in vain. It is in fact a gateway to a wider dimension of being, where the soul starts to recognize its true depth. Each wound then not only marks us, but also points the way. And it's precisely this path that leads beyond what we thought possible, opening space for genuine awakening. The pain you've experienced, the moments you've often tried to avoid, can now become your most powerful ally. Ask yourself, what are my wounds trying to teach me? What wisdom can I extract from experiences that once felt unbearable? Reflecting on this, you'll see that every difficult moment holds seeds of growth, and applying this knowledge transforms not only you, but also how you relate to the world around you. What if you started today to see your challenges as stepping stones to something greater? What small actions could you take to turn suffering into learning? Maybe it's writing about your experiences, helping someone facing similar pain, or simply allowing yourself to feel without judgment. Every conscious step matters, and the more you practice this perspective, the deeper your awakening becomes. Now it's your turn. Which wound are you ready to face with courage and compassion? What change are you willing to make so that pain becomes fuel rather than a prison? Share your thoughts in the comments, because every story has the power to inspire others walking the same path. Interaction isn't just about speaking, it's about creating a network of mutual learning and support. And to continue this journey of self-discovery and awakening, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. That way, every insight, lesson, and reflection on personal growth will reach you. Remember, pain is just the beginning of awakening, and you're ready to step through this gate.